the interesting thing about breathing specifically is people will spend years playing around with these complicated food charts trying to alter their blood pH. It just doesn't do anything. Whereas with breathing, you can change the pH of your blood very, very fast, which is very interesting and something you need to be really mindful of. But it's an indicator of the power of breath. And
hello, everyone, and welcome into CrushTheStreet.com. I have a special guest today. We're going to be talking about something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, but definitely extremely important. We're going to be talking about health, and we're speaking with a fitness expert. His name is Lucas Rockwood. He's a yoga teacher, nutritional coach, writer, serial entrepreneur, and he's the founder of Yoga Body and runs the Yoga Talk Show. So we got a lot to talk about today, and I think he's going to teach us about how to yoga breathe on this call. So Lucas, thanks for joining me today.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, you know what? I actually thought maybe we would learn to yoga breathe first, and then maybe talk about all the benefits that there are for doing that. How does that sound to you?
Yeah, it sounds great. Let's do it. And I think a lot of people listening are probably wondering, hey, why do I care about yoga breathing? I want to talk about the stock market, or I want to talk about mutual funds, or whatever investment vehicle they're looking at. But one of the things that I've found is that getting in control of your nervous system, specifically your emotional response when it comes to financial decisions, is a really huge advantage. So even though for some people they might think, hey, why is this yoga guy on the show? I think if you listen in, I think you'll develop some really interesting insights into ways that you can start making better decisions, keeping your cool during the day, and particularly when you're dealing with financial issues. It's certainly been a help for me in my sort of entrepreneurial endeavors.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And really, what good is money and wealth if you don't feel good when you wake up in the morning? And how can you enjoy that? So let's do it then. Let's learn to yoga breathe, and then let's definitely talk about the benefits, because we want to know why we're doing this and why, if someone should actually take the time to care.
Most of your listeners have probably experienced yoga in one form or another. Maybe it was a YouTube video, maybe they took a yoga class at their local gym, or maybe they've been to a proper yoga studio. In any case, almost everyone is familiar with the idea that breathing is important. Every yoga teacher worth their salt will pound you over the head in terms of, breathing. They don't really go much further than that, though, meaning it's not really extrapolated beyond just it's important. And so very few students really grasp what's going on. Why is it important? And the why, when we're looking at adherence to anything in health and wellness, I think is really important, right? Why is it important to eat healthy fats? Why are omega-3s important? Why do we want to get complete protein? All these kinds of things are really important. So when we look at yoga breathing, why is it important? The reason it's important is because we always talk about the mind-body connection, whether we're talking about meditation, whether we're talking about prayer, whether we're talking about yoga. And the mind-body connection, the bridge between your mind and body, is your breath. It is the simplest tool, and it allows you to override and even control your autonomic nervous system. And as the name suggests, autonomic, it's usually automatic. But using some very simple breathing techniques, which we can literally learn just right here today, people can learn to, first of all, understand how their nervous system is doing, and from there take control and manipulate it without our usual tools. And our usual tools are caffeine, alcohol, sugar, starchy foods, high-stress television, CNN.com, and all of which are somewhat toxic. And by using natural techniques like yoga breathing, you can really get that under control. So like anything, you can go as deep as you want with yoga breathing. There's lots of different exercises, lots of different techniques. But on a fundamental level, the fundamental things that we're doing to our nervous system, we could break down into three main categories: water breath, whiskey breath, and coffee breath. I'll say that again: water, whiskey, and coffee. We use these analogies to help us understand how the nervous system is being affected. Just like with beverages, we mostly want to drink water. Water is balancing. It's good in the morning, good in the evening, with food, without food. Water is great. Most of us need more of it. The same is true with water breathing, balancing breathing. It's the most appropriate breath to use day or night, high stress, low stress. It's very much like water. Whiskey breath, as the name suggests, puts you to sleep. Coffee breath, as the name suggests, wakes you up. Both of which we want to use with moderation. We want to focus most of our practice around water breathing, balanced breathing. What does this mean? Well, when we look at breathing, the thing that influences how the breathing affects our nervous system more than anything is the rate at which we're breathing. Simple way to think about it is if you breathe as if you're cool, calm, and collected, your nervous system responds in kind. If you breathe as if you just finished a 100-meter dash, your nervous system responds in kind. And so knowing that, understanding that, we can make shifts in our nervous system very simply. Water breathing or balanced breathing, the rate at which we're looking to breathe is approximately 4 to 6 breaths per minute, which is about half the rate that most people listening are breathing right now, because we tend to be a little bit stressed, a little bit hopped up on caffeine this time of the day. We tend to be a little bit hopped up on sugar. And that balanced breathing, 4 to 6 breaths per minute, if you're up, it'll bring you down. If you're down, it'll bring you up. It's very much adaptogenic in that regard. And it's something you can use day or night. Before a busy meeting, after a stressful day at the office, all of the above. And here's how to do it. First of all, it's nasal breathing only, nose breathing only. Big part of that is because we breathe through our nose when we're cool, calm, and collected. We breathe through our mouth generally when we're exhausted, when we're screaming, when we're jumping out of the way of an oncoming bus.
Right.
Breathing as if, mimicking the physicality and the physiology and the breathing patterns of a specific state. It allows our nervous system to literally drop into that state. So we breathe just through our nose, and the simple pattern is inhaling and exhaling to the count of 4. So I'll just count you through a breath so you can see what it's like.
Okay.
You're just going to relax your body, and you especially relax your abdomen, because we want the breath to originate from your diaphragm, which is just below your rib cage. And we're going to inhale through your nose, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to exhale through the nose, 4, 3, 2, 1. You repeat that simple pattern. I usually recommend 10 rounds, and most people will find a very noticeable balancing effect. And that balance effect, again, if you're all wound up, it might be bringing you down. If you're really sleepy, it might be bringing you up. Like a glass of water, always a great idea. It's the kind of breathing we want to focus on. It's safe to do while you're driving. You can do it while you're outside the boardroom waiting to step into a busy meeting. You can do it when your kids are driving you nuts and throwing things at your head. All times are good times for water breathing.
Lucas, that was actually amazing. I was thinking 4 to 6 breaths a minute. That's not very much. But of course, that's something that we do consciously and not all the time. Is there a specific type of breathing that you suggest for people to do while they're in their subconscious, essentially, like a habit where you walk around so you're not constantly overbreathing or whatever you would want to call it?
The term overbreathing is a great one, because that's exactly what most of us are doing. Most of us are overeating, overbreathing, overstimulating. The too much thing is a big problem. And underbreathing is rarely a problem. What we're looking to do is balance our breathing. And so 4 to 6 breaths per minute is actually a very, very comfortable, sustainable pace, except for when you're doing very vigorous exercise. So if you were, running, or if you were lifting weights or something like that, it's not going to work. You're going to need to breathe faster. But for everyday stuff, it is very much an appropriate breath. But most of us are breathing 8 to 12 breaths per minute. Some of us even 15 breaths per minute, so much, much faster. It takes practice, but this nervous system training through breath work, breathing at this rate, even if you just start doing this once or twice a day, you'll start finding yourself dropping back naturally into this 4 to 6 breaths per minute rhythm. And what happens when you do that is you have a balancing effect on your nervous system. And this is what we're looking for. We're looking to have our yoga practice, our breathing practice, dribble over into our life, so that we respond to stressful situations by relaxing instead of by getting all wound up. And so it is sustainable, and it is something you can use. And if you find yourself getting worked up in a line at the airport or in a busy traffic situation or whatever it is, you drop back into that inhale to 4, exhale to 4, and you can find your center really quickly.
That's really good. I'm doing it right now, and it feels great. Question, what if you need to be in an opposite sort of state of mind? What if you're talking to a guy who's going into battle, or a football player on the line there, ready to say hi? Would you recommend the opposite, breathe fast and to get themselves in a position that they can perform in a better, more explosive capacity?
Yeah, it's a great question. Let's take a step back so people can understand how their nervous system is responding, because that's the first step. Sometimes we're not even really familiar with where our nervous system is at. So our autonomic nervous system, as the name suggests, is usually automatic, but we can override it. And the two branches of our autonomic nervous system people have heard of, your sympathetic and parasympathetic, your fight or flight mode, or your rest and digest mode. These are the two nervous system responses that are generally predominating at any time. And so they will switch back and forth every couple of hours. That's why sometimes it's really easy to do busy work. Sometimes it's very easy to do creative thinking work. Sometimes you feel like you just want to go to the gym and exercise. Sometimes you feel like you want to sit on the couch and watch a DVD. That's going from fight or flight to rest and digest, fight or flight to rest and digest. The simplest way to understand this, and looping back to your question, if you're about to go in and compete in a sports game, or you're about to go in and make a I don't know, let's say you need to go and build something that's very physical, like you need to you have a building project, or you're doing an obstacle, you're doing a Spartan race, or you're doing a Tough Mudder or something like that. You definitely want to be in fight or flight mode. And as soon as I say fight or flight, many of your listeners are immediately going to assign a value judgment to that, and they're going to say fight or flight bad, rest and digest good. But that's not true. We're looking for balance, yin and yang. And in fact, we're actually looking for balance every couple of hours. So we want to go from fight or flight to rest and digest throughout the day. So that's a lot of talk. Let's do a practice. Stick your index finger underneath your nose like it was a mustache, and exhale a few times pretty long and sharply. Based on which nostril the breath prefers, this is something called the nasal cycle. It was discovered about 100 years ago. Based on what nostril the breath is coming out of stronger, we can gain some really interesting insight into your nervous system response at this given moment. Right now, I'm predominantly in my left nostril because I just ate lunch about 30 minutes ago. That means I'm in rest and digest mode, which is totally appropriate. My nervous system is acting appropriately. When your grandmother says, hey, don't go swimming right after you eat lunch, that's because swimming would shift you into fight or flight rather than rest and digest, and you'd get indigestion because your body takes the blood away from your digestive system and sends it to your skeletal and coronary muscles. It's really, really simple physiology, but it's easy to forget because we can't see it. But using this simple nasal cycle check, you can see where you're at. So you're about to go compete in a Tough Mudder or a Spartan race on the weekend. You're an athlete, or you're just going for a CrossFit workout after work. You definitely want to be in fight or flight mode. And this is why our bodies respond so well to schedules. If you ask any parent about schedules, and especially parents of young kids, they live and die by their schedules, because we all know that children respond so well because they get in the habit of shower, bath at this time, brush your teeth at this time, meals at this time. And it works so beautifully for balancing out kids' behavior. We're no different as adults. We've just learned to smush down our tiredness with coffee and to knock ourselves out with a couple glasses of red wine. But we're the exact same thing. We're big babies. And if we can get ourselves into a regular schedule, waking up at the same time, exercising at the same time, you'll find your cycles are totally appropriate, meaning you're hungry right before you eat your first meal, and you're tired right when you lay your head down. The irregularity of our schedule throws our nervous system off because it's not sure where we're at. For people listening, they're thinking, that's great, but, I travel 5 days a month and I'm in different time zones, and, we have company dinners, and I'm going to bed at 2 in the morning and I'm waking up at 6 in the morning. Completely understand. The key thing we want to do is, as much as we can, pull away from our dependency on sugar and caffeine and alcohol and all these really strong tools that do their job but have side effects. And as much as we can, focus on natural mind-body practices that have no side effects but can have some of the same benefits. So if we need to get ourselves into fight or flight mode, we want to use our coffee breath, and we want to use this with care, because if used in excess, it can cause anxiety in the same way that drinking 4 shots of espresso will also give you anxiety. But it is appropriate at specific times, such as right before a yoga practice, right before any kind of physical exercise. So before all of our lead classes in my Yoga Body studios, we teach 3 rounds of 20 breaths of something called Breath of Fire, which is a simple practice I can teach listeners right now. It's a sharp exhale through the nose, and we want to breathe at a rate of about 1 breath per second. And we sneeze the breath out, and we relax to have the breath come back in. So it's just an exhale. The inhale happens all on its own, and it's through your nose only. And here's what it sounds like. So I'll do about 3 rounds of 20. It's a really, really simple, safe way to stimulate my nervous system, to get myself moving towards fight or flight mode. And that's what I want when I'm out exercising, when you need to answer 20 emails in the next hour, when you need to clean the garage, when you need to just go, get things done, hunt for an animal, make dinner. That's fight or flight mode. It's a very important part of life. And so checking in with that nasal cycle will help you understand where you're at throughout the day.
Wow, that's powerful and really, really interesting and practical. I mean, if you need to get something done, I mean, you have tools you can access. And I love that they're a lot more natural than just reaching for the coffee. Are you mentioned alcohol. Are you not a fan of people indulging in some alcohol or specifically wine? They say wine's great for you. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm a fan of everything that's bad for you. I think I haven't found anything yet that's bad for you that I don't like. So personally, I'm a fan. In terms of your health, it's a disaster. All of these really simple things. The new thing is coffee. There's entire diet systems based on this massive cup of coffee in the morning, and coffee in moderation is very interesting. Unfortunately, moderation works for almost nobody. Moderation means less than 100 milligrams per day, and your average coffee drinker is drinking about 350 milligrams of caffeine per day. Alcohol in moderation, I would actually contend that alcohol in any quantity is just a metabolic disaster, and so I just say stay away from it at all. Most of the positive stuff in and around red wine is based on resveratrol, which is an anti-aging compound, which is available in such a tiny amount in red wine that you need about 1,500 bottles of red wine a day, which is just going to totally impossible. Yeah, so you're better off taking a pill, getting a resveratrol supplement. Everything else about red wine, you just need to understand that it's entertainment. And separating entertainment from nutrition is really, really important. There is no such thing as a healthy French fry. There is no such thing as healthy pizza. Pizza's fine. Birthday cake's fine. It's all fine. Just make sure you put it in a different category. This is not food and beverage. This is entertainment. This is, what happens once a month is not what's important. What happens every day is what's important. And if you're having entertainment style foods, chips and guacamole and beer and wine every day, you're playing too hard. And so you really need to be mindful of it. And even 1 or 2 glasses of red wine can really throw people's blood sugar levels off, their cortisol levels off, depending on your gender. And it can really cause sleep disorders and a whole bunch of other things, as simple as literally 1 or 2 glasses of red wine. And unfortunately, the escalating impact of alcohol for most people is a reality. It's a slow game. People will go from 1 glass to 2 glasses to half a bottle to a bottle, but it usually creeps. And with that creep comes more and more abdominal fat, which that creep gets more and more blood sugar issues. With that creep get, all kinds of other issues. So I always encourage people to drink as little as you can get away with and still be sociable. Or like me, you can just be antisocial.
Love it. Lucas, let's talk about pH levels. I've done a little bit of research on this in the past. One of the things I know I found was that babies are born alkaline, and people usually die in their elder years acidic. And you're saying that breathing impacts the blood pH levels. So what is, how does this work? And maybe you can shed some insight on how our pH should ideally be.
For people, when they hear pH, and they often think of acid alkaline diets, which are on and off with popularity at different times. People talking about eating alkaline foods and how important that is. And there's a lot of interesting ideas in the acid alkaline diet. Unfortunately, it's an oversimplification of food because it's absolutely possible to become too alkaline. And everybody's very different, but I tend towards alkaline, just my personal constitution. So if I have 3 shots of wheatgrass, for example, I will feel nauseous and ill because it's so alkalizing, and literally I'll vomit. I used to own and run health food restaurants, and we served wheatgrass. And the people who were the biggest fans were overweight, male, drinkers, processed food, pizza eating people. They come in and take 5 shots of wheatgrass, and they'd feel amazing because they tend to be overly acidic anyway. And so it's not that, again, we always want to put a value judgment, acid good, alkaline, or acid bad, alkaline good, but it's not about good or bad. It's just about balance, and we need both. Alkalosis is just as bad as acidosis, and you're right, both of them can kill you. Naturally, we're running around slightly alkaline, and a lot of people are trying to alter their blood pH by drinking alkalized water, or they're trying to do, just alkalized foods. And the reality is that those are really poor ways to change your blood pH. Your blood pH is extremely stable, and your body will do just about anything to keep it stable. In some cases, it will even take minerals from your bones to keep that blood pH stable. When you mention people dying acidic, that's usually true. When people's blood goes acidic, they're usually in some kind of sick state of cancer or advanced metabolic disease or whatever it is. But the interesting thing about breathing specifically is people will spend years playing around with these complicated food charts trying to alter their blood pH. It just doesn't do anything. Whereas with breathing, you can change the pH of your blood very, very fast, which is very interesting and something you need to be really mindful of. But it's an indicator of the power of breath. And here's what happens. When we breathe really fast, we get rid of all the carbon dioxide. And that carbon dioxide forms carbonic acid in your blood, and that can literally make your blood slightly more acidic. When you get rid of all that acid from fast breathing, your blood becomes more alkaline. And so the rate at which you breathe, again, can make your blood more acid and more alkaline, neither of which are necessarily good or bad, but it depends on the situation you're in. If you're fighting off an illness, it is helpful to become alkaline, and it is helpful to stimulate your nervous system, which again can be helpful through faster breathing.
Wow. That is powerful, and I had no idea that existed in this capacity here. Lucas, I want to give you an opportunity here to just maybe give some people some words of advice for how, if they're maybe on the far end of the spectrum, eating junk food and just completely giving up on themselves, what would be some advice for them, and maybe just some general advice for people who want to start making some changes for their life?
My biggest advice is, I just think about things as health, wealth, and relationships. I feel like that's all that really matters in this world. Pretty much everything can be lumped into one of those 3 categories. And so when you look at those 3 categories, health, wealth, and relationships, the reason I get so excited about health is because it's the easiest. Money takes some time. Relationships, at least for me, those are really, really challenging. All of them, whether it's parent relationships or, romantic relationship, kid relationship, whatever it is. But the health thing, it is democratized. It is available to anyone. And if you start doing things right today, you can start feeling better tomorrow. There's not many investments that will start giving you a return tomorrow. There's not many relationships that will start being fulfilling tomorrow. But I'm telling you, if you eat well today and you do some healthy movement, some healthy breathing, you will wake up feeling better. And the compound interest on that is staggering. And so it's one of these investments that I think is just so accessible that I think people should start. And fortunately, the best thing about health is it's the easiest, and it also spills over into your relationships and your investing and your wealth and all of those things. The healthier you can be in body and mind, the better financial decisions you can make. The healthier you are in body and mind, the better your personal relationships can be. So I would just say try to latch on to something. And I always encourage a +1, -1, meaning try to add something, try to get rid of something. A lot of health experts will just promote just adding things, meaning just stacking good on top of bad, just trying to add in a kale smoothie in the morning or do a yoga class or whatever it is. But I would actually encourage people to do a +1, -1. So let's say you add in 10 minutes of breathing today. See if you can pull out the 2 glasses of red wine, or if let's say you add in a CrossFit workout today. Let's see if you can pull out the bag of the bag of cookies or whatever you're going to eat at lunch. That +1, -1 can be a really powerful step forward. And little steps, it really makes a big difference. The analogy to money is really a good one. In the same way that everybody knows that if you start investing from an early age, you make more money, the same is true with health. It just stacks. Those little differences do make a big difference.
Sure. Well said. And it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks for the time and coming on the show with me today and teaching us about these breathing techniques. If people want to learn more about you or reach out to you, where would they go and what would they find?
If you go to yogabody.com/how-to-breathe, yogabody.com/how-to-breathe, you can get a one-page worksheet on how to use this water, whiskey, and coffee breath. Really, really simple. Gives you instructions. And on that same website, yogabody.com, you'll find links to my podcast called The Yoga Talk Show, all of the products, and also professional training programs that we have here in Barcelona.
All right, Lucas. Well, hey, thanks for coming on the show with me today.
My pleasure, and I hope that listeners got some great ideas, and I'd encourage everybody to take a 10-round breathing break today.